Hello, everyone. We're back one more time this season for what really is one of the biggest evenings in Manchester United's history, and albeit it's the poetic justice that is May the 26th. Tomorrow night, it's Sir Matt Busby's birthday. It is to be 22 years since we secured the big ears and the treble in 1999. And some other events happening tomorrow night. We just so happen to have gotten to another European Cup final. It's not the one that everyone expects us to be in, but all the more important because it is our season, basically. We've had a wonderful Premier League season, and tomorrow night it could be culminated with European success against Villarreal in the Europa League final in Gdansk. Myself, Alexi, and hopefully we're waiting for a couple of our other contributors in Robbie and Perry to join us later on. In fact, here is Robbie now. I'll bring him right in. Hello, Robbie, mate. Nice timing of you. Literally just got underway. I'll get them to see how they're doing in a minute. But, yeah, we're going to cover a lot this evening. It's more or less about really focused on this one important game, which has really been plaguing our lives since we got to the final a few weeks ago, beating Roma. We've probably been thinking, how are we approaching this final? Well, life hasn't been so good in the Premier League since. A couple of defeats on the way, a draw to Fulham, and a relatively good victory against Wolves. We're now heading into it with many questions, and hopefully we will answer some of them for you. Otherwise, just cross your fingers and toes and pray it goes well tomorrow night. Alexi, Robbie, I'm happy to have both of you here. It's a big evening, not just for us here on Trafford Talk, but it's also a big evening for those who are joining us this evening, because it's an opportunity for all of you to give us your thoughts on what is to be a historic evening tomorrow. Please use the comment section on our Twitter or on YouTube to give us some questions. We're happy to answer them, our thoughts on tomorrow, and on top of which, what you think the final result will be, because we are going to make a prediction or two for tomorrow night's game. So, first and foremost, I'm going to get Alexi on, who's obviously been here last night talking to Cam after the incredibly cinematic stuff that was the Premier League season. Reflecting on it quickly, Alexi, how do you feel heading into this final, coming off the back of one of the most challenging Premier League seasons we've had in years?
I'm scared. I think, every time I think about it, I think we should win. Really, you look at our players we've got. If you look at it objectively, we're a better football team than them. But I'm just so nervous. I've been nervous since about last Thursday. I just keep thinking about it. But I think ultimately, I do think we will win. Because we are a better team than them. On our day, we can beat pretty much anyone. But my only problem with this is I just hope we don't go goal down and have to come back. I just want us to be 8-0 up at half time, and then I can just sit there, in the pub with my beer and just be really calm. I can't take this going a goal down stuff. The thing, me and you before we came on, Ahmed, were talking about this. The thing I wouldn't be able to take would be penalties. I don't even think I'd be able to watch it. It'd be so unbearable having to watch us in a penalty shootout. I've only just got over the 08 final, for God's sake. I can't take it, Ahmed. I can't. But no, in all honesty, though, I really do expect us to win. And we've been resting players on and off for a while for this, and we have big performers like your Eddie Cavani's, your Bruno Fernandes's, your Paul Pogba's, your Marcus Rashford, who they live for games like this. They relish on them. We've got so many match winners, and yeah, I'm confident. I'm so scared.
Oh, mate, I don't blame you. Honestly, it's killing a lot of us as well as me. And I've had to come. I'm still literally reeling off the back of other events in the weekend, but that are not Man United related. But even still, it's such a big occasion, and it is really, as I said, our season riding on it. And I'll tell you more about why I think we should win this competition later, but let's get Robbie. And Robbie, good to see you, my friend. As always, a busy man as ever behind the scenes and trying to keep this thing going, even though we have been on a bit of a sabbatical because really you're not going to cover 2 near meaningless Premier League games. So we decided to take a break. Full force and focus is on this game now. And not just me and Alexi, Robbie, are literally shaking to the core at this. I'm quite certain you're going along the same lines too of what could be a historic evening tomorrow night.
Yeah, so first time, I'm happy to be back. But as you said, we deserved a break. Who would have wanted to really listen to anything to do with those last few games, meaningless games, and we finished second. So on to this game, which literally rides on a full season being positive or negative. If we lose in Poland, then it can literally mean the Ole out will be back. And it's so true, this will 100% happen if we lose. And if we win, he'll be the best manager since Sir Alex Ferguson. So there's a lot on the line. And it makes me more nervous now, the fact that Harry Maguire, which I'm sure we'll go on to, didn't seem to train today, which is a real letdown, a real loss for us, because it's clear to see how big he is for the team, and just as a presence they have on the park as well.
Mad. I'm quite sure that Harry was not thinking he wouldn't be in this final. But I guess it's a topic we have to cover at the very beginning of the show. Tonight, Manchester United have done their training in Gdansk. I believe Villarreal are doing theirs right now, as accustomed to any matchday -1 event. But Harry Maguire, if you haven't seen or heard the news, he did not participate in the training session this evening. We initially thought him sitting on the bench with his, attire that he arrived in the stadium with on, being a sign that he just needed a moment to observe everything and maybe he'd join the session. But he'd later go down the tunnel, and more questions were being asked. Obviously, we only found out through people, the press, who are the United journalists that are presently there, who are there to work on the final. But that's a worrying thing for us, Alexi and Robbie. We haven't got our best centre-back, and it looks like his injury that we picked up against Aston Villa, when we hoped initially it wasn't anything remotely serious, may now just have ruled him out of the game altogether, unless this is Ollie's incredible ploy and trick to fool Emery into thinking, I've not got my best centre-back until the last possible moment. He surprised him, says, I tricked you. Here he is, fully fit. Does it worry you we will not have our captain there tomorrow night in what is our biggest game of the season?
Yeah. I mean, I remember Gary Neville said a while ago on Monday Night Football, he said, for United and England, even though he's not like the best player, losing Maguire is the worst thing that can happen to both teams. England, if Maguire's not there in the Euros, are absolutely screwed, because the drop back from Maguire to who comes next after him is really big. I mean, initially when I found out about Maguire, I was like terrified. I think we're in big trouble here. But the only consolation really is that Tuanzebe has been playing quite well. And it makes me think that he can fill in quite well. I think, Harry Maguire is someone who has been vilified a lot this season. A lot of people have had their agendas against him. Obviously, at times he's not been great, but broadly, since he's joined, we've been just better defensively. And he is a really good player, Maguire. He's a victim of his 80 million price tag, which he'd be probably the first to admit. It puts a lot of pressure on him. But he's been really, really brilliant. And as soon as he got injured against Aston Villa, I tweeted saying, a lot of people are going to realise how much we rely on him now. Because as soon as he went, the defence kind of toppled a bit, didn't it, against Liverpool, for example. But when I was at the game on Tuesday, I did notice that Tuanzebe was pretty dominant and pretty good. I didn't think the goal was really his fault. And I think against Wolves, he looked quite dominant. And yeah, that encourages me. And we've got to remember, even though it feels like ages ago, it was this season when he pocketed Mbappe, Neymar, and all of those players, So this is a guy who is capable of turning up in big games. And yeah, I personally would have him in anyway. Also, Bailly is injured now, or doubtful. But regardless, I don't know what you guys think, but for me, it's got to be Axel over Bailly, to be honest.
I think it works in that way where, there's such a gap in like just quality that we've got in defence, and it goes with England as well. Let's say, as you say, it will be a massive loss to England during the Euros if that does happen, because John Stones, yes, he's good, but you think John Stones would be good, as like the leading defender? I don't believe so. I think Maguire and him would probably complement each other pretty well. I know it's obviously a back three, probably Walker as well will go in there, but I don't think it will be. So I don't think it will be like, as clean the full way through. I think Maguire obviously needs to think about the Euros as well. I've seen reports of him possibly going to try to play. I don't think there's a point in playing if he's going to come off in the 40th minute. There's absolutely no point in that happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and that also shows you the quality of our centre backs that we've got. We desperately need a centre back during the summer. Eric Bailly shouldn't have signed a contract extension, and we should have made a long-term target to bring in two centre backs, one this summer, possibly one in January or next summer. Absolutely crazy, he's always injured. What is the point of keeping him? It's like a Phil Jones scenario where he's just kind of burning away in the reserves, waiting for a chance, waiting for one game a season, a few games a season. It is pointless, absolutely pointless to have. And it would help Maguire out that bit as well, because I think you could just tell to look at him towards the end of the season. The fatigue was kicking in. He's played so many games this season and nearly broke the record, which was a shame he didn't break it, but it just goes to show how underrated he actually is, because the second he goes out of the team, everyone's desperate for him to come back. It's just annoying. I want him to be there. I want him to lift the Europa League. But, it's one of those things where if he's not, then I think we're in big trouble. I think the night will be a lot harder with Twansby and Lindelof, because we've seen what Villarreal can do. They beat Arsenal. They've not had like an easy run. Unai Emery seems to just have it. He seems to be able to just win Europa Leagues like as if they're so easy. He did it for Sevilla, and then let's hope he obviously doesn't do it for Villarreal, because as I said, for Ole, I think it'll be a massive step, his first title, and for a lot of the players as well, it'll be their first. So I'm excited for the game, but there's that bit of just sheer nervousness and I wouldn't say I'm anxious. That's a bit far, but I just hope it goes smoothly. And as you say, Alexi, I hope we'll get the game won in the first half rather than leaving it to like the last few minutes or penalties, maybe extra time. No, I'm not up for that.
So you're both of the sort 90 minutes and done. Is that your vibes, or do you feel that this, because it is the last game of the season, so you can't really see United thinking about the next day, because there's nothing after tomorrow night. Really, everything hinges on that, and that's it. So give it your all and hope it comes out good. Would you prefer it to be done in the 90 minutes, or are we gonna have to go through the roller coaster of emotions of extra time, and if possible, the shootout?
We're not. Don't get me wrong. I'm not watching tomorrow out of kind of enjoyment. I just want it to be done as quickly as possible.
A Sociedad style of win. What you're looking for?
Yeah, or Southampton 9-0. But the thing is, obviously, the only problem with, I think me and Robbie both agree that if it's not done after 90 minutes, our nerves are going to be just done. But we have drawn our last 4 games with Villarreal 0-0. Now, I remember, it's been so long. I remember watching those games as a child. I think I was about 10 or something. Very long time ago. But obviously, if that's any trend that will be followed, then yeah, it could be extra time. But if it's extra time, I mean,
I think there's also like a difference of class in the Villarreal team. Like I think this team now, you don't even really look at this team and be like, wow, you've got like good players here or there. I'm not saying they've got a bad team, but it's not, we shouldn't be frightened of it. We shouldn't be frightened of it. Like Sevilla in the last campaign, they have good players that are, on kind of a level. But I think with Villarreal, I mean, they've got a few names who are good players, but they still should not be able to beat United in the final. They shouldn't have beat Arsenal either. I'd rather have had Villarreal in the final probably, but I'd have fancied our chances against any of the teams right from the quarter-finals. I think I'd had this challenge the whole way through. Should have been Real Sociedad, but we absolutely steamrolled them in the first leg. Made it easy for ourselves, and I hope we can do that again. As you say, just steamroll our way through, and that also, calms the manager's nerves, calms the players' nerves. But yeah, and I've actually got a question for you as well. Like, see, for keeper, who do you think is actually going to start? Because everyone's been kind of in and out at the moment. It's if Ole doesn't know who he actually likes, who he actually wants in the team. So, like, I'm just wondering, guys, what do you think? Who do you think for in goals? Ahmed, what do you think?
Well, it's a sign. It was Sunday. I take Ollie by his word that he has two, very good goalkeepers. But I also take what he does in the end as the ultimate decision. He started Henderson on Sunday. Sometimes you start a second keeper in 2 straight games, but because of the value of this competition, the fact he's played in it already since Milan, if I'm not mistaken. I think Henderson played Milan and Sociedad, but De Gea has played Granada and Roma. So for me, I can't see a reason not to pick De Gea, because he's got big game experience. While Dean's played well and this season has wins against Manchester City to his name, and he's played a part in our run to the final, it's whoever he trusts. I'm sure he knows best. At the end of the day, he's the manager. But De Gea, for me, because of the experience he has in cup finals, he is one of the few that I could say from the get-go I can trust, especially against Spanish opposition, where this season, when he has played against Spanish opposition, he's been good. He's not had too much to deal with in the Europa League this season. I think the only real worry was the Champions League, and the night against Leipzig is a bit of a concern. Henderson, I can see why everyone has a case for him to start, but I'm thinking in the short term, I want him missing out on the final to be a driving force for England, and then perform well for England in the Euros if he gets the shot. Maybe gives Ollie something to think about, and if De Gea does up sticks and go home, who knows?
So, I mean, do you think that if he misses out in this game tomorrow, do you think Gareth Southgate will still? I mean, yes, I think he will get picked, obviously, because Aaron Ramsdale's the 4th bill looks at it. But
yeah,
do you think that even if he misses out in tomorrow's game, do you think he will still be first choice for England? Yeah, I don't think he will.
No, I agree with you. No, I don't.
It's one of those occasions where it's going to be an absolute killer for Dean Henderson. Because you're actually looking at it and you think maybe David De Gea wouldn't start. I mean, I've covered a lot, obviously, on the channel about the international breaks, discussed every player, and David De Gea has not played for months. It's been Unai Simon, who is a very average Athletic Bilbao keeper. Who
then again, though, Grubby, he's the only world-class keeper they have. Kepa has not performed up to any standard. He's even been dropped from the Spanish team. That's a statement, clear statement that a big player, a player of Kepa's, standard, a big club gets dropped, doesn't get into the team whatsoever, is a sign. He's picked the Brighton keeper Robert Sanchez over him. along with De Gea and Seymour. So it's clear he knows what he's doing. He's choosing between Luis Enrique is choosing between Seymour or David De Gea. And if anything, my gut feeling is De Gea. And I would be unopposed to him starting that final, not because I don't think Dean Henderson can't do the job, but I just see that Ollie's keeping promises here. He's given Dean enough Premier League games. Say Sunday he gave him Wolves. And if that's not a clear indication that De Gea will start tomorrow night, I don't know what will. If he does make the flip and give Dean the chance, I think that's De Gea's clear signal that his time at United's over. I'd rather him be, if he is to go, I'd rather him on the pitch, winning a trophy and doing it on the terms that only I'm sure he'd like to do it in, rather than be left to the bench, collect a medal, enjoy the evening for what it is, but not have a role to play in it. For Henderson, he is basically the long-term option for Manchester United. He can have more of these moments down the line. I just think for tomorrow night, I'd go with what I know does the job. And if it means that Dean has his questions about it, we'll have to see later. But Ollie said it in the press conference. If you're going to be angry with me because you missed out, be angry with me. But you're going to be called upon at some point. And once anyone's called upon, it's their time to deliver. So take him by his word, I say.
Right, Alex, let me know, because I want to hear firstly about, do you think the Dean Henderson will start for England in the Euros? And also let me know, who will actually start tomorrow night, which is the bigger picture for us.
So with the Euros, there's no doubt in my mind that Pickford will play, because Southgate has quite a withheld loyalty.
Well, that makes the Scotsman very happy.
Yeah, I mean, Pickford.
I hope John McGinn shoots from anywhere, because he's not good enough, and
he's
I agree with you on that as well. I think he will start, but Alexi, I think there's more class elsewhere.
Yeah, so I'd rather see Nick Pope or Henderson play for England than Pickford. And in terms of United, if we're approaching this game with a school of thought that we're going to have a really high line of engagement, it should be Henderson, because we see how good he is at sweeping. But what I will say to kind of counter my own point was, obviously that goal Cavani scored the other day against Fulham, that was De Gea, from De Gea kicking the ball out that happened. And I mean, it's probably an exception to the rule, because overall we don't really see De Gea contributing to many goals. It's a problem. I was sat with my mate at that game, and we were getting a bit annoyed because we needed a goal, and it was like De Gea would he'd pick it up and then kind of just waste a bit of time, and then just make the easiest throw. Whereas Henderson, like we saw against City, absolutely launches it. I think for the Luke Shaw goal, wasn't it? And that could be really important in a game like this. But then obviously it's the thing that if you're talking about a shot stopper, De Gea is the one. I think De Gea will start. Obviously, it's a really big decision, this, for Ollie. I mean, it's huge. And it's a decision of his own making now, because he did start chopping and changing them. And it was inevitably going to come to this, because if you remember a few weeks ago, or a month ago maybe, it was clear Henderson was the cup goalkeeper and De Gea was the Premier League goalkeeper. But Ollie's kind of blurred the lines a bit. So, either way, it's going to be a huge decision tomorrow. But yeah, I think it will be De Gea.
Such a massive mistake, him doing that, though. Such a massive mistake, because we've seen how detrimental it was whenever Sergio Romero was in, and with David De Gea, and there was a lot of trust lost. Then you just see how that impacts the team as well. So for me as well, I actually don't know. It's one of those things where I think they'll both do a good job. They are both good keepers, but I think De Gea will start. And I think it will be I don't think Dean Henderson is going to start for England anyway, but I think that would be a real slap in the face for him, and it'll almost make Gareth Southgate's decision for him as well, which is a shame for him, just leading up to a tournament. It's a shame, but so is David De Gea. he's fighting for his place as well by the looks of things. Because, I mean, Luis Enrique doesn't seem to know what he's doing. He's dropping, let's say, Sergio Ramos, and he's just trying to almost make
chaos in it.
Big moves, that make him look good, and I don't know, I think it probably will backfire.
Do you know the one kind of thing in the back of my head that worries me is, do you remember last season, that cup semi-final against Chelsea, when we played Romero the whole time and he put De Gea in, and oh my God.
He did that in the Europa League as well. He did that in the FA Cup semi-final, and in the Europa League, Sergio Romero played last Copenhagen. We get to Sevilla, he swaps him out for De Gea.
And it didn't do well, did it, at all?
It didn't do good for the Argentine. I think that triggered him.
The Chelsea game was an absolute disaster for everyone, but for De Gea as well. And I think that's why Romero's not here anymore. So, obviously, I'm sure Ollie will do what he thinks is right, but there's a huge... It could decide the game, the performance of the goalkeeper. You know, we saw that against Chelsea last year, so he's got to make the right bloody decision.
Absolutely. Well, it's a question in limbo until the minute we find out the team needs an hour from kickoff tomorrow night. Let's move on to who we play, because it's been on our minds since, as I said, since we beat Roma and they got past Arsenal. As United fans, it's been on our minds ever since. We've both had, you'll be surprised to know, we've both had near similar runs of form heading into this final. We have lost 2. We have won 2, but we've drawn 1 extra game. They've lost 2 and won 2, have Villarreal. But on those occasions where they've won where they've had clean sheets. They beat Valladolid by 2-0. But the most impressive one was beating the current holders of the competition, Sevilla, by 4-0. Carlos Bacca scored a hat-trick as Gerard Moreno added to his already impressive goal tally for the season in that very same game. They overcame Arsenal over 2 legs on aggregates, having beaten them at the Estadio La Ceramica, and somehow hanging on despite Arsenal hitting the post twice and getting, I don't know how much luck they were praying for, but they got it on that night. They got through a very difficult evening against Arsenal, who didn't turn up really and didn't show the passion or not so much the interest, but the intent needed to overhaul a 2-1 deficit. Now, in the end, forced them to play against a very difficult low block and a side that just seems to be able to control the game, even without needing to really threaten very much. So, on Saturday, they lost to Real Madrid. The one thing you take away from this game, though, is that not the fact Real Madrid beat them in the end, but it's the nature of how long Villarreal were in front for against a side who were stressing themselves for winning the title. Emery went strong in that game. He didn't make a mincemeat of it at all. He went strong. The team he picked won't be any different. He only changes the goalkeeper for the odd occasion, but he's playing Sergio Asenjo in the league games and Geronimo Rulli, the Argentine, in the Europa League. But this weekend, he went with Rulli in goal for the game against Real Madrid. Gaspar, Albiol, Man United target Pau Torres, and Pedraza with the back 4. Etienne Capoue, Dani Parejo, Manuel Trigueros, and Jeremy Pino, who's a young star in the making. He's got wonderful feet. He can score from anywhere. In the middle, and then you have Moreno and Bacca up front. So he's called upon Bacca with his experience of Europa League finals to come and deliver again. This is the same Carlos Bacca that scored in this 2015 final for Sevilla twice in the same game against Dnipro Dnipropetrovsk, I think is how you say it, in a great match in Warsaw. So he's got experience as a winner of this competition as well. Going through the side, though, it is Villarreal's first final, but going through the side, there isn't much else. Other players with the experience. They have Alberto Moreno, who's been at Liverpool, hasn't played there. He hasn't played many games this season, however, but was a member of the side that lost in 2016 with Liverpool against Sevilla. Asenjo's been at the club for almost his entire career. Paco Alcácer is a threat off the bench. He's played for Dortmund. He's played for I believe Valencia as well, across city rivals with Villarreal. But the key men tomorrow night, and it's been stressed enough by, I'm sure, lots of fans, are these three men: Manu Trigueros, Dani Parejo, and Pau Torres. Those three all combined are the men that United have to be wary of. Parejo's beaten United before. He was in Valencia's team when we lost 2-1 in the Champions League in 2018 in that calamitous performance away from home. He dominated the game, scored a penalty in that match. And on that evening, he was more or less the dictator of the entire evening, him and Carlos Soler that evening. But he's gone across to his rivals after financial issues at Valencia and has since then become a wonderful talent for the Yellow Submarine. Him and Trigueros are such a strong and well connected partnership in the midfield. They trust Capoue to be the man who sits in deep, and he's obviously a formerly of Tottenham. He sits deep. He does the clean-up job in the back row, but never had a good spell in the Premier League. He just seemed to go through the flows with Tottenham, and was always out of favour with Pochettino. This probably is his big chance at redemption for him in a major final. Raul Albiol's a World Cup winner. He's got experience with the national team and at Real Madrid in his career. If I just to look at it, he played for Real Madrid 118 times. He was at Valencia for a large part of his career. He had a 6-year stint in Italy with Napoli. And yeah, as I said, he played for Spain. He's played 55 times for them. And he's yet to announce he's not even retiring from them. He's still trying to get into he's still trying his best to get into the Spanish team. I don't think he made it in the end, but he's got bags of experience and scored against Arsenal in the first leg of the semi-final. He's a threat in the air. He loves the ball at his feet. He doesn't matter who he plays against. He'll bully them as much as he can. I desperately think him and Torres, Parejo, and Trigueros, the centre of midfield tomorrow is going to be crucial for United to deal with. It's their creativity, the combined know-how of how to play with one another. And the fact that when they are connected and they do get the ball out in wide areas, they become so much more of a threat. It's something that Arsenal could not deal with in the 2 legs against them. They get the ball into wide areas and are so good on the counter-attack. So we have 2 conundrums here. They're good on the counter, and as typical of Spanish teams are, they're good at the ball in their feet, but in areas of the midfield that we are not often very good at defending against. They'll compress us, they'll press high, they'll give us a hard time. Emery sets this team up to, be underdogs. He loves these underdog teams. He loves giving these sides a chance at being a big-time Charlie every once in a while. For Villarreal, this is everything for them because they've never been here. They've never been to a European final. They've been 4 times European semi-finalists on 4 times, and they've lost to Arsenal, Liverpool, Valencia, and Porto on those last 4 occasions. Each of them where they have put great performances in, but still fallen short. For this city, it's a unique experience. They've always wanted to sample a European final. Emery has delivered it. And by now, we all know he's the king of the Europa League. He's a 3-time winner with Sevilla. Lost in 2019, but he's aiming to win it for the 4th time as a manager. No manager has ever won it more than him. And if he can extend it tomorrow night, it would be the first time Villarreal ever win a European trophy. It also affects our Champions League position because we currently are pot 1. Having the best coefficient out of everyone else in pot 2, and also being, I think, the most successful in Europe in the last 2 seasons, we've been given the last pot 1 spot. If we lose tomorrow night's final, we go into pot 2, and Villarreal will take our spot in pot 1. Now, that will come on to when the time comes. We won't discuss the Champions League draw stuff just yet. It's just a permutation that can happen, but we'll go somewhere down the line with that. Maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow night if we get the chance to, all being well. But to you 2 gentlemen, you've heard my synopsis, my thoughts on and an analysis on what Villarreal can do. They are a very adaptive team to any system, and that's what Emery's good at. He can make a team prepared for anything, especially when they are the team with nothing to lose. I think for once we are actually not the underdogs, and I don't fear that to be a disadvantage, but I do think we have something that we have to lay our expectations on tomorrow night. So, taking what I've said into account, what are your opinions on Villarreal?
Yeah, so the one player that you didn't actually mention a lot, and maybe you were thinking it as well, I like saying it was Gerard Moreno.
Yeah.
I mentioned him.
I know, I know you mentioned him, but you didn't like bring him into like Paul Torres.
26 goals this season.
Yeah, I think he's got 20 goals this season.
Yes, 23 plus how many? 23 goals in La Liga. In the Europa League, he has 6. That's 29 goals in all competitions. For his club, for his country, he's 30. He's got 30 goals in all competitions. Okay, I didn't overlook him as much. We all by now know the threat he has. I do feel though. I do feel that we will need to watch him extensively at set pieces, him and Albiol in particular. But yeah, Robbie, you sounded him out. Do you find him to be a threat?
I think he's basically like the Spanish equivalent of like our Harry Kane. That is the way I look at him. He's always got an eye for goal. He'll score from anywhere. And we've not got the best defence, do we? Going into the game, so that really does make me nervous. I mean, I'm sure Barca had a few great games leading up to the final. So I mean, he's on form. I'm guessing it'll be those two players starting up front. So yeah, it's one of those things where he is the player who I'm looking out for. But Ahmed, as you said, they do have players elsewhere. Still not as good as us, but we shouldn't disrespect him. Danny Parejo, he's been about everywhere. He's been about in Spain. He's a great player. We all know what he can do. And then you look elsewhere, Albiol, how long has he been going for? How successful has he been? Great player. And, I think, I really don't want to embarrass myself by saying his name, but
who is it? Is it number 14?
Yes.
It's Trigueros.
No. He's Nigerian.
Chukwueze.
So I mean, I've seen him play a good bit over the Europa League, and how he's been. He's caused a lot of issues. See, coming in from the flank, he has been good.
He has no hope though of playing the final. Sadly, against Arsenal, I think he pulled up with a hamstring injury, was stretchered off the field, and I think they announced it 2.5 days later that it's like a severe tear. So he's nowhere near fit. He won't even play tomorrow. So he's there in person, but not to play.
Yeah. So what I was going to say is, I mean, I was scared of him, and obviously I knew that he hasn't been playing recently. And I mean, it sounds bad that we don't want injuries for anyone, but thankfully he's not playing because he is a good player. Obviously, I know Luke Shaw's on form as well, but he seemed to cause Arsenal so many issues in the 2 games that they played, and he's probably one that their kind of main, their main kind of driving force type players, which they had. Just kind of brings that something different. So it'll be interesting to see who they'll use in that sense now. Who will bring the ball up the park? Who'll push on with Trigueros? But I mean, I've not watched him in the last few weeks, so it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But yeah, Gerard Moreno, I would say, is the one player that sticks out for me. I'm a bit nervous.
I think what you mean.
With Moreno as well, I mean, the guy's got 29 goals this season, I think 14 assists. That's outrageous. And the way he plays, he comes in from the right-hand side a lot. He doesn't just stay central. And obviously, that means Luke Shaw's got to be on it. And we don't want kind of situations where, because we know how good Luke Shaw is going forward. If Luke Shaw's up the pitch, Moreno might get in behind. He just likes to play in those areas. I mean, he's the one we've got to be scared of, I think. Like, I'm not taking him lightly at all. I think Parejo's a good player. And I mean, shout out to Alberto Moreno, who is in the Villarreal squad, I believe.
Yep.
What a player. I mean, you could argue Alberto Moreno, one of the best Spanish left backs of all time, At Liverpool, it was like watching Roberto Carlos, in his prime. He's probably going to score now, I've said this. But obviously, Coquelin as well, another old friend from Arsenal who, to be fair, would get into their side now, wouldn't he? Coquelin, I think.
Yeah, he does. By far.
Like, very easily. So, yeah, and it's interesting. Like, I think you said about the goalkeeper situation, Ahmed. They have two very good goalkeepers, actually. Kind of similar to us. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be an interesting game. It really is, because they are, a decent team. I mean, I don't necessarily, because I think, us three could put a team together and beat Arsenal. But it's the fact they've been so resilient throughout the whole competition. And we've got to remember, their manager is the Europa League. Like, I think you mentioned this earlier. Like, he just wins it all the time. Like, it's borderline. Like, there's got to be a sponsorship deal or something going on between the two, because he wins it every year. But I was just thinking, when you guys were talking, I think the last time Solskjaer and Emery met, I think I was at the game. Do you remember the 1-1 against Arsenal when McTominay absolutely lashed it in, and then Aubameyang scored that goal? The
controversial one initially, but eventually was proved to be correct, because I don't know what Maguire was doing, but it led to an equaliser that night. But there's another one you've overlooked, and I don't know if you were at this one. It was the fourth round FA Cup tie. I'm not sure, at the Emirates, where we turned up that night with three players that night who I believe. Two of the three players that night who all played a role in each of our goals, who are no longer with us at the club. Lingard, Sanchez, and Lukaku all played a part in us scoring, in winning the game. Lukaku, I don't think he scored in that match. Sanchez did. Lingard did, so he had another wonderful time on the dance floor. Martial scored the third. And in that performance, we were just mercurial. We were much better than them. They did have injuries. I think they lost Koscielny and Socrates in the first half alone. But even still, they were not good that night. We tore them apart. And this was when Ollie was just getting the best out of this team. He has got the better of Emery in the cup, but since then, I think it wasn't as good, I think, with us and Arsenal. We drew 2-2 with them at Old Trafford, but Mourinho was manager then. We won the FA Cup tie. We lost 2-0 to them at the Emirates following Paris. We would then draw with them at Old Trafford again, the one we just mentioned. Lose 2-0 to Arteta after he got sacked. So, in the terms of Emery and Man United, we've had some difficult matches against them, but we've only beaten him once. For you, though, I'm sure I'm agreeing with you here with the fact that we shouldn't underestimate the fact that it's Villarreal are just Villarreal. This is Unai Emery. On his own, he could win, if he wanted to, be a one-man team and win the Europa League. How worried are you that he has a plan to try and beat Manchester United tomorrow night?
He'll have a plan, because he knows Solskjaer fairly well, I guess, because like we said, they played a few games, and he's played against United a lot, and I think he will have watched us play against. I think the Sociedad game in particular is the one he would have sat down and looked at. He would have watched how Sociedad had such a high line and just let us kind of run in behind, and he's going to go, hang on, we're not doing that. And I think it's important for him to study that. And he'll also study what happened against Roma and how Roma fell apart. I mean, honestly, Unai Emery, this is a kind of broader point, but there's this kind of perception in football in England, where if a manager doesn't do well or a player doesn't do well with an English club, they're viewed as a joke. But it's ridiculous. Unai Emery has achieved more in his career than most of the managers in the Premier League currently. And yet he kind of gets mocked on Twitter like he's this really dreadful manager, but he's not. He's a good manager. And I love Solskjaer more than anything, but if you could have any manager in the world to play a Europa League final, you would probably pick Unai Emery. You just would, and he will have a plan. He's very innovative tactically. He's set up very interestingly. I think they're a pretty good ball playing team in some senses, but I think equally as well, he's going to set them up really well defensively in a way that will negate our threat. And, I just find it crazy that people are undermining Emery as a whole, because like I said, it's just this weird perception that, if a manager has one bad job in England, or if a player has one bad club in England, that they're automatically crap, which just isn't true. But I guess it's this kind of English superiorness for some reason. But so that's a separate point. But yeah.
Fair point. I don't think we should in any way underestimate Villarreal, even though reality, they are. It's reality second v 7th in La Liga, and so we have basically very much not a lot to lose, but we need this more or less. So they are treating this like it's everything for them, and I'd rather us treat this game like we've treated most of our Europa League ties this season. And the fact we've beaten 2 Spanish teams to get to this final on the way, as well as 2 Italian sides, we've had to go through the hard route, I'd say, per se, because traditionally us and Spanish teams are not good mixes. We tend to struggle greatly against Spanish opposition. And for the life of me, I don't know why, but for this particular final, if you want, I don't know about omens, but our omens don't look good. The last 2 finals against Spanish opposition for English teams have seen, if I'm not mistaken, Sevilla have beaten Liverpool. Liverpool have beaten Alaves in 2001. And in terms of Manchester United, our last 2 defeats of Spanish opposition in European finals, you guessed it, Barcelona. So we've not had much luck in terms of European finals against Spanish opposition. A testament, though, tomorrow night will be to, I think, is patience. Something we've seen a lot of United, something United done a lot this season is not be patient. In matches when, let's say, for example, against Everton, when we drew 3-3, we were 2-0 up, and we started the second half very well, but then instantly 2 mistakes. We conceded immediately from Teher's mistake, and then went behind further from a mistake at the back. Liverpool as well is another example. When we lost 4-2, we were too hasty. We panicked a lot at the back against their high press. Tomorrow night, Villarreal are going to do what Liverpool did last week and press us so much. Like they're not going to give us a course of roof for playing out from the back, especially as we don't have Harry Maguire. So Victor Lindelof is going to be heavily dependent on when it comes to the ball being played out from the back tomorrow evening. And then what he's going to see is when he receives the ball, the yellow shirts will more or less be lining the penalty area around him. So he's got to look through to find the first available option, whether that is Matic, Pogba, McTominay, or Fred, or if it's Wan-Bissaka or Shaw on either side of him. I wouldn't want to give it to Tuanzebe inside the penalty area because Ollie's never going to get rid of that short pass inside the box, that's for sure. Never get rid of it. He will definitely want, though, to have a way of getting that ball away from the first line of press and then avoid getting suppressed in the midfield by either Fred slowing the ball down or when someone does receive the ball in the middle, that there's no outballs to go out to in terms of whether it be Rashford, Greenwood, or Fernandes to be able to feed the man up front. We just have to break through the press tomorrow as many times as possible because that's what they're going to do. If we can do that, we have a chance of more or less not only scoring goals, but seeing the game off sooner rather than later. If we don't, we're going to be in for one hell of a night. And it's something I thought I could flag now in terms of warning everyone. It is a thing that Emery does a lot of. He loves pressing teams. It's a fun thing for him, and he'll try and squeeze every inch of energy out of them. So, had that moment. Now we have to do the annoying bit. This is where, and if you're still watching, I want your suggestions now. This is where we are Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. We've already picked practically the goalkeeper. It's going to be De Gea. That's what we think it's going to be, because it's a harsh call on Dean Henderson, but part of it is mainly because it could be De Gea's swan song in Man United colours. It could be that he moves on after this game. We don't know yet, but we will find out after the final whistle, come what may. We know it's De Gea, though, in goal for us. So now, who do we play everywhere else? A shoe-in is the centre-back position. We don't have to worry about that because Bailly is a doubt, so it's Tuanzebe and Lindelof. Phil Jones, don't even ask the question. Not even a consideration. So we now need to fill in 8 other spots in the team. The full-backs are a given because Wan-Bissaka, he's not in the England team. So this for him is his last game of the season. Whatever he does in terms of his national football, it's not a big deal for us, but we hope he sorts that out. But he can treat tomorrow as his everything. It's his European final. Luke Shaw, he's playing for England though, so we're hoping he puts on a show tomorrow night. Midfield pivot for me, some predicting McFred again. It's what Ollie has trusted throughout the season. And if he's not going to change, if he's not going to budge from that, it's going to be those two in the pivot tomorrow night. Would have been a fair shot for Nemanja Matic just because of experience. He has played in the Europa League final before with Benfica against Chelsea. He's been on the losing side with them. He has lost FA Cup finals with Chelsea, but he has that experience that carries with him. It would have made sense for him to play tomorrow night, but if he's not going to change McFred, there's no point making make a song and cry about it. The 4 men up front, I hate to say Mason can't start, but you have to find a way to put Pogba in the team. And it hurts to see Rashford out on the right. So it would make sense to put Greenwood there. But Pogba starts any final no matter what. So Pogba's out on the left tomorrow. Fernandes, Rashford, reluctantly on the right, and then Cavani or Greenwood up front, probably Cavani. So that's what I hope. Over to you two. Who are your suggested 11s for tomorrow evening? You're Ollie now.
I mean, I'm going to make it pretty simple. I think that is literally how we will line up. I think Rashford obviously is kind of fine for fitness as well. Hopefully he starts. If not, I think it will be Greenwood possibly on the right. But if not, yeah, I'd go with Rashford, and as you said, I think Paul will need to start in the final, so he'll probably be on the left too. So yeah, I think it will just be, the team can almost picks itself for this game, and yeah, especially the defence. I mean, we've not got much to choose from. I think Tuanzebe will be in next to Lindelof.
Yeah.
I mean, as you said, Bailly's injured, so there's not much to choose from in that aspect, and he obviously go further up the park, and really the only issue is the fact that Rashford's fighting for health. But if not, it's not the end of the world. We do have Greenwood, who's a great player as well. Yeah. So that's quick and simple from me. But yeah, I mean, you've done the majority of the work.
Alexei?
I'm going to throw a spanner in the works here. Sorry.
Go on then, I don't mind a bit of controversy.
So I've been thinking about this, and if we're going to play Marcus Rashford on the right wing, there's no point in playing him at all. It's completely ridiculous. It's one of those things that Ollie does, and I get why he does it to accommodate Pogba, but I think putting Rashford there, it's a complete waste. So I'm going De Gea, Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, Tuanzebe, Shaw, and then I'm going to go Fred, Pogba, Bruno, Greenwood, Rashford, Cavani. The reason for that is I basically think while McTominay and Fred may well be what he's going to go with, I think Villarreal are going to sit back quite a lot of this game because they're not idiots. Like, they're going to understand that we're really good going behind. And I think what will happen is obviously if we play McFred, but we don't get an early goal and it's still 0-0 in 60 minutes, one of them will be withdrawn for Greenwood anyway.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can justify leaving out Greenwood. And I know it sounds a simplistic point, but we're Man United in a final. We should be going for this. If we were playing against PSG or City even, or Bayern Munich, maybe even Arsenal, I don't know. Like maybe McFred would be the best option, but I just think we've got all these attacking players in such good form, like Greenwood and Cavani, and let's use them. Why not? And Fred is a very, very dynamic midfielder. He has his moments, but I think he can do that role well. And I might be wrong. They might come out of the blocks and have a really high line of engagement, but I can't see it. I think they'll sit back. If I was them, I would sit back. And yeah, like I said, I just don't see the value in Rashford on the right wing. I just don't see it at all. It's never worked, really. I get why he does it for Pogba, but, we've seen Paul Pogba play a midfield in the World Cup final. I think we should be able to trust him in the Europa League final. He's a really top player. He's had a week off. Bruno has had a week off. In fact, all of them have had a week off. And I just think sometimes in life, in football, you've just got to go for it. We've just got to get out there and get into them because we're a better team than them. And ultimately, if we have Bruno, Pogba, Greenwood, Rashford and Cavani on the pitch, we'll win. Like, surely we'll win, There's just such brilliant players. But yeah, that's my team. Yeah, sorry, it's literally different by one player, but yeah.
Fair argument. I can see why you've gone with that approach in terms of not wanting to leave Rashford exposed on the right to only be able to go on one side all evening. I don't see the left back for Villarreal to be particularly strong, but naturally these the fullbacks in Spanish football are not very fast, but they are very good technically and are good defensively. So they don't carry a lot of pace over a certain distance, which I think Rashford can expose if given that. But I can see a fair argument on your part to say that we can use Pogba in a deeper role and he could dictate everything against a low block such as that. So I can see the logic there. It'll be a tight call if that is your adjustment. It does also mean we can still attack as we normally do, and Pogba adds another element to it. I just worry with him being there, what can happen if we are countered on, because Fred's not very reliable in counter-attacking situations sometimes, and that tends to play on my mind. It's something I've seen a lot of him in the Premier League when it comes to dealing with opposing countering. If we've committed a few bodies forward, Liverpool was an anomaly because Matic had the ball, and we're trying to get him to their end there in the field to try and force an equaliser. In the end, though, I just worry going with that approach might expose us defensively. I can see the idea of going for it, but thinking about how they can exploit us on the counter.
I completely, I actually agree with everything you just said then about Fred on the counter, but I think ultimately we've got to get to a point again as a football club where we're going to a game thinking we're going to play our best team and they're going to have to do absolutely everything to stop us, because if they're not 100%, they're going to get absolutely battered out there. That's the mentality we should be having with the players we've got. And obviously, if he does play McFred, I'll completely understand why. I'm not going to slag him off for it. I won't slag those players off. I think they're good players and I get why they do it. But I just fear if he does play McFred and we don't win, it will be because of that. Because if we're being real, if we play that team I said, if we lose, it's going to be like 3-2 or something. It's not going to be 1-0 because we've got so many attacking players on. But if we play McFred and lose 1-0, it's kind of, he'll look back on it with regret. And I think sometimes with a final, sometimes with a football match, I think it's better Jose Mourinho is a master at this with bringing on Mikel. Sometimes it's better to just absolutely go into a team from the off like we
Yeah.
did. Sorry, I'm ranting a bit here, but I've just thought of a point. Right,
It's fine. It's fine.
Our best performances this season, you would say Leeds 6-2, you would say Southampton 9-0, you'd say City 2-0, just off the top of my head right now.
Leipzig 5-0, PSG away.
Yeah.
In all of those games, we started off the block straight away. Against City, we had a penalty after a minute. Against Leeds, we were 2-0 up after 3 minutes. Same with Southampton, right? All of these games, McFred have played in, and they've been brilliant. But what I'm alluding to here is we've started really well with incredible intensity. And if we do that, if we just say, do you know what? Let's play Fred, Bruno and Pogba and just go for it. We could be 2-0 up after 10 minutes. That's not impossible at all. And then let them come on to us and counter-attack us. And then bring on McTominay if you want.
Okay.
It just, for me, the fact our best performances this season have come when we started so quickly makes me think we should do that tomorrow. And if we are a couple of goals up or even a goal up, yeah, bring on McTominay by all means. But I just really think we should be going for this. We've got no excuse at this point. These players have no excuse,
Yeah.
They've not won a trophy, any of them, for 4 years, this club.
I mean, we've got the right players to do it. We've got a better team than Villarreal. I think if you look at it in any more detail, then you'll just be like going round in circles. We've got a better team than them. We should be beating them. End of story. We've got depth everywhere. I mean, centre back not at the moment, but we've just got a bit of class. We've got Bruno Fernandes. We've got Pogba. The list does go on. And yes, Villarreal have good players, but should they be able to beat us? No. And there'll be an absolute revolt if we don't win this tomorrow. So I'm praying for Oli that we manage to pull it off.
Are you in agreement with Alexi in the idea of if Oli does make the adjustment and we just treat it as we've done against Sociedad, for example, where we go out in the first minutes, run all over them and try and kill the game off as soon as possible. And the same being Roma, although we had a bit of luck with Roma having 3 injuries in the first half. If we treat that game the way we did against Sociedad, would you be of the kind to just like Alexi is, just to see it off as soon as possible and then try and dictate it from there?
Yeah, so we can't, respect who we're playing in that sense where we need to go out from the start, as you said, and go for it, because we went behind way too many times this season. Yes, obviously we have been successful, but maybe Villarreal it'll work for them, able to withstand like the actual pressure of us for this full game. Possibly not. I don't obviously know, but we can't risk that. We can't go a goal behind. I don't want to see that. I don't think any United fan would want to obviously see that. But yeah, I'll be so nervous if that happens, and I'm sure everyone else will. But I do completely agree with you, Alexi. We need to go out for the first minute and take our dominance, because we are a better team than Villarreal, and we've proved that since I can remember.
Okay. We can only now sleep and hope. That's the least we can do right now, because it's just it's 24 hours-ish now. We're just under 24 hours before United's probably the biggest game of our season since Leipzig, in my opinion, because the Leipzig game had much riding on it, and we ended up paying the price for not performing when it mattered. So we are here again on a massive European night, May the 26th. It's like basically everything is intertwined for Manchester United. Everything. We're talking the date itself, the meaning of it being Sir Matt Busby's birthday, and the fact that he's a polarizing figure at Manchester United. Even though he's no longer with us, he still has a part to play. The fact that we've completed the treble on that day in 1999, our manager is the man who scored the goal. Surely tomorrow night, it has to be like, it just feels like everything is set perfectly for us to go out and win this tournament. And continue that legacy. I mean, Fergie's there earlier today, as is David Gill. All of the men who've played a part in our history that can be there are there. I now have to ask what you hope the final score's going to be, because I can't predict it. I don't know how you can either.
Oh God, I'm going to need a few pints for this game. I'm just so
the next head might be your place to go to, mate.
I'm actually off to a live screening of it.
Oh,
you go to the BEC Arena?
Yes, I've heard of that.
It's like Trafford Park. It's near Old Trafford, but I think there's because obviously COVID restrictions have released. We can now have loads of people watching, so it's kind of like there's a big screen, and like me and my mates are going, and there is a bar, of course. It's one of those. It's great going and watching it in an arena with loads of people if we win, but if we lose,
no.
Yeah, it would not be good.
Yeah, it would feel a bit like kind of England World Cup in it. You go from like throwing your pints in the air.
Yeah. I broke my routine at that World Cup. Every match that England played in, I stayed in the same place for every game. So I never moved. I always sat in the same place. I broke that routine because I went to Wembley for something on the day of the semi-final, and I couldn't avoid it, so I had to go. When it was finished, there was a big screen in the shopping centre there, and I decided I'm not going to make it home in time. I've decided I'm just going to get some food and stay and sit there and watch it. And I got there, and I was there like 90 minutes before the game, so there's already a crowd there as well. So I've decided to avoid that happening again. I've already done every single Europa League game here from where I'm sat right now. I'm going to do it again tomorrow, and this time hope for a similar outcome. This time in a positive outlook, because in 2017 I was at uni at the time, and I watched every Europa League match at uni, not at home. So. I managed to get to the final when we won it. I watched it at university with a few pals. It was a crazy evening. So I'm hoping that this time around the same happens again, and I'm just hopeful that we tomorrow night get through this. So if we won't predict a score, but the least we can hope for is a performance.
just win. I don't even care. Just get it done.
Win it.
90 minutes.
Win it is all we need. And like I say, it rides, our season rides a lot on this, because Ollie's needed this moment for a long time. The trophy drought for Manchester United is too long. I mean, it was this trophy we last won, and I'd have liked to have said we beat Real Madrid to win the Super Cup 4 years ago, but we didn't play well enough in the second half that night. Realistically, this is ours to lose. We have to win this no matter what. And you can't begrudge the effort that's been put in at the end of the season to try and win this competition. I think clearly Ollie's decided, regardless of what happens, we're going to try and win this final, giving our all. And I hope tomorrow night is the one occasion where we do see these boys give everything they can to deliver this trophy for us, because we've waited so long. So how about we go and do it? And I don't want to look like a fool after saying in January I wanted to win this competition when we entered it, because I'd said forget the FA Cup and the League Cup. It come what may, if they came, they came. They didn't. I said we needed to win this competition. We're here now. I've put my neck on the line for it. Can we please bring it back? I'd love it to be ours tomorrow night. Alexi, Robbie, thank you, both of you, for joining us this evening. We've just ticked over the hour. But tomorrow's review will start a little later because we don't know what the final is going to be like. So as soon as the match is done and we go bananas or mull over what happened or what could have been of a VAR call or a dodgy red card or two, once we've done all that, we'll come on to do the review. And we'll let you know on Twitter when that's going to be. But it will definitely be just a tiny bit later than what we normally do, which is straight after the game, because some of us may need to cool our heads a little bit, regardless of what happens. So, myself, Alexi, Robbie, and co, and I hope we can get a few more guests on tomorrow night, will join us to reflect on what could be or what could have been, or what has been and what could be next season. But please like, subscribe if you're on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter if you want to see more of this. We do this sporadically at the end of the season because what's there to do? But this is everything for us. This is, for me, Alexi, Robbie, and I'm sure every United fan, it's everything. We just hope the boys tomorrow go out and do justice for the shirt that they wear and bring back on the day of Sir Matt Busby's birthday and a day on which we secure the treble, another European trophy. We can only hope and see what happens there. But until then, back the boys, support them up to the end. Because we are Man United fans and nothing more. So red flag keeps on flying high because we don't die. And till then, the United flag will keep flying high. Till then, guys, have a good evening and I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.